All right, what's up, people? I actually figured you guys were going to vote for this one just because it is the much more difficult of the two. Why absolute evil is impossible is rather simple, but we'll leave that for the next one. Why is the concept of absolute good impossible? Why can't it happen? Why must there be something, some piece that doesn't fit? That's a jigsaw puzzle analogy. So, in order to get to this conversation, oh, by the way, this is going to be long. It has to be long. This is a philosophical type shit. In order to get to the question itself, there are two very important words that we need to define. And the first of these, not in order, but the first of these and most important of these is the concept of good. What does that word mean? Okay. And then the second word, which is derivative, and I'll tell you why it's derivative, but we'll go ahead and say it. Absolutely. Absolutely good. Absolute good. I'm just going to go ahead and put this on the floor. The word good by its nature, and we'll get to it, predisposes you to an absolutist concept. So absolute is buried into the word good, so we just need to look at the word good. We don't need to qualify it. Does that make sense? Okay, so now what is good? Now, most people might want to define it in some kind of verses, like good versus evil, that type of thing. After all, that's kind of what I said I was going to do, good and evil in different respects with regard to absolute ability. Right? Isn't that what I said? No, it's not really what I said. I just gave you a poll. What is good? It's funny you should ask, because no one can tell you. Good is what is beneficial, which is a synonym. So you're recursively defining your own terms. Beneficial to the individual. Good is what's good for me. Right? We all know this intuitively. Good is what's good for me. If the dog lets me pet it, that's good for me. If the dog bites my arm, that's not good for me. Right? Come on, man. Is it really that simple? It's just how things affect you psychologically. Well, if that's the case, I've already proven the point that there is no such thing as absolute goodness, because sometimes you're on the wrong end of shit, right? But let's get a little bit more philosophical with it. Let's see if we can understand what a perfectly good world would look like. So if everything in the world was perfect, there would be no suffering, right? Because suffering is bad. It's evil to the people that are undergoing it. Am I correct? There would be no death because it's either the cessation. Well, you can say there might be death and then there's resurrection or whatever. I mean, I guess you could make that argument. Who the fuck knows? But there could be no pain. If there's no pain, then there's no process of life. So we don't have the ability, not we, I mean everything, doesn't have the ability to move forward. And so, for example, if one animal eats another to survive, that's good for the animal that eats, but it's not good for the animal that gets eaten. Right? So how do you balance a world in which there is no evil? I think the only way you really can do it is by having a world that doesn't exist. But would that world be perfectly good? Do you understand what I'm saying? Would it be perfectly good? We don't even know what the fuck that means, but what I'm trying to tell you is that when you cut out what you deem evil, you're actually preventing the good from existing in the first place. The good can only exist in light of evil. Meaning the light only shines in the darkness. If you've ever gone out in like a June day, like a day where the sun is shining like a motherfucker, and you take a flashlight out there and try to shine that motherfucker, ain't nobody gonna notice it. Because the light is already out there. But you hide behind a tree and you get in them shadows, then you'll know what's up. But seriously, why is there an impossibility of perfect goodness? Why? Or absolute goodness, or whatever. Because you cannot have one thing without its contrast. Otherwise, it wouldn't even be the thing that it's pretending to be. Goodness requires something against which to measure it. And unfortunately, that is what it is. Pain, suffering, death. These are necessary components to make all the good things good. Without that, the fuck do we have?